Hi guys, this is another video that I'm making for Cody's channel. Just like to again thank Cody for allowing me to do these videos for his channel. So this video is going to be about me leaving prison and having to go into an approved premises or hostel. Whilst I was in prison, when I was told I had to go into a hostel, I spoke to a few of the guys in there and asked them if they knew anything about them. And they told me that they're not nice places, full of nonsense, etc., things like that. I was not happy about that. At least in prison, 99.9% of the time, nonsense and whatnot, they're segregated from general population. But being told that I had to go into a hostel and be surrounded by paedophiles and sex offenders, rapists, etc., that it didn't sit well with me at all. So I come out of prison. Like I said in the previous video, I met my mum, met my brother, and I was informed by probation I had to make my way straight to the hostel. So we got to this hostel. I don't know if I should say which area it was in, but it was in Greater Manchester. We had to sign in. Got in there again. For some reason, they had to read my licence conditions to me. They told me what was expected of me inside the hostel, that I would never be allowed to tell anybody my second name, that I wouldn't be allowed to ask people that were in the hostel their second names, and I'm assuming that's due to the fact that they've committed some horrendous crimes, be it against kids, be it against, women, men, maybe, sex offences. So once that was all done, a big induction, they then sent me to my room, give me a key, walked into the room. It was horrendous. All I can describe it as is, it was horrible. There was a small type camp bed in the corner, one wardrobe, one cupboard, like chest of drawers, and a sink in the corner. There was a communal area downstairs where you could go down and make coffee, make toast, etc. They had a kitchen there where you could get 2 meals a day, which you had to pay for, by the way. When you go to hostels, you have to pay rent to be somewhere where you don't want to be. So yeah, I started to kind of unpack my stuff, walk downstairs. Straight away, you could see the sex offenders. I know that you shouldn't kind of pigeonhole people or assume that somebody is something by the way that they look. However, you could tell. I kept my distance from them, to be fair. I didn't really interact with very many people while I was in the hostel. It wasn't a nice place. Now again, I don't want to be making these videos and trying to come across like I don't deserve to be punished for the offence that I committed, because I do. I don't want to come across like I'm some sort of victim, because I'm not. I committed a serious offence and I deserved to be punished for that offence. Now, obviously the procedures following leaving prison, I just had to accept that the hostel was a part of my punishment. So I was kind of setting myself up for the fact that I had to be in there for 3 months. Again, I didn't like it. It was not a nice place. You were on curfews, so you were let out. I was let out at 9 o'clock in the morning and I had to be back at 9 o'clock at night. If you didn't come back on time, then you'd get recalled to prison. Simple as that. They breathalyse you every time you come in. You have to sign in and sign out. So every time you come back in, you get breathalyzed. Like I say, again, you have to pay rent when you're there. It's not much rent, but again, when you come out of prison, you've got nothing. You go and sign on with the job centre, you get universal credit, and you know they say, do you want an advance? £317, I think it was at the time. I come out of prison with hardly any money at all, so I had to take the advance, and then subsequently after that, they then take back what you've borrowed out of your monthly payments, so it leaves you really short. So yeah, inside the hostel, it wasn't a nice place. There were sex offenders in there. There were people in there that were absolute tools, you know, getting drunk and kicking off and all sorts of things. There were, you know, you didn't have your own showers, you didn't have your own toilet. There were communal showers, communal toilets, absolutely minging. You had to, you know, they didn't have cleaners in there. You had to clean everything up yourself. So as you can imagine, people that have actually been in prison, there's a lot of gammy people in prison, and there's a lot of gammy people in the hostels as well. So it was disgusting. So in my last video, I told you that one of my license conditions that I was given, that I couldn't have contact with my children. Now, when I come out of prison, I was not accepting that. There's no way on earth that I'm not speaking to my kids. So I challenged it. They then put me forward to social services, who then had to do a full investigation and do all the reports and stuff like that, which I'm still going through now. I'm still fighting now to kind of have full contact with my kids. But you know, they're my drive. My children are what drives me to never want to ever commit an offence again. I will never ever give up on my kids, ever. And I will battle anybody to the death to make sure that I have contact with my kids. So luckily enough, we've got a decent social services worker, and they said that, yeah, we agree you should have some form of contact. Bearing in mind I was having contact with my kids whilst I was in prison, but all of a sudden when I come out, it stopped. So what they said was, you can ring one of your kids every night at a certain time, but it has to be monitored by the hostel staff. Now, the way that they monitored it, I was sat in a room where people were coming in and out, signing in, signing out, asking for their advice, asking for this, asking for that. And as I've stated, it's full of paedophiles. Now, I was sat there on the telephone one day, speaking to my son, as you do, young lad. He's a baby basically, but he understands. You can have a conversation with him. So as you do, you talk to your kids like, hello, you know, stuff like that. How you doing? Blah blah blah. Talking to a child, and there was paedophiles coming in and out all the time, and it infuriated me. And I turned round to the people that were running the hostel and I said, look, I'm not being funny, but you need to put me in another room, because I'm not sitting here talking to a child on the phone while there's a nonce stood behind me listening to my conversations, which, you know, I'm more than entitled to do. It didn't go down too well. They reported me to my probation officer. My probation officer came and had a word with me about my attitude, because apparently I had a bad attitude. So again, I referred it to social services, and I said I'm not happy at all that I'm having to make phone calls in an environment where I'm surrounded by paedophiles. So they changed it eventually, because I made enough noise, and I was allowed then to sit in another room and just talk freely. So leading up to, I was in there for just shy of 3 months. So leading up to my end date inside the hostel, I had nowhere to go. So when that kind of came up, I wouldn't have had anywhere to live. So luckily enough, thank God, I was put in touch with a housing project near the area which in the area that I'm living now, and they luckily took me on their books and give me a place to live. So it was quite a smooth transition from the hostel into the place that I'm living now, which was good. And you know, it's going from strength to strength. Everything's going really well. The fact that I'm kind of settling down in my own place is having a positive effect on, you know, the fact that I'm going to have contact with my kids, etc. And I am now having contact with one of my children. The other two children, their mother's been a bit awkward, which it's a total different story, and I'm not even going to get into that. But yeah, everything seems to be going in the right direction for me, and you know, I'm never going to give up. So to sum it all up, for anybody who it may be coming out of prison or may have to experience a hostel, my advice to you would be, don't overreact to anything, because you are being watched 24 hours a day. It's full of CCTV cameras. Don't do anything wrong while you're in one of them hostels, because you will be returned back to prison. Do not kind of, you know, let your emotions spill over in relation to how you feel about specific offenders, i.e. rapists, nonces, etc. Because believe it or not, if you react like that, they will send you back to prison. Use them, use the advice that they can give you, use the guidance that they can give you, the people at the hostel. You know, take up any sort of offers that they have to put you on the right track, because eventually it will pay off. Try and keep yourselves to yourselves. That's what I'll tell you as well. Try and keep yourselves to yourselves while you're in the hostel. Don't talk too much about, you know, your life. Don't talk too much about what your plans are. Don't talk too much about your offence and go into details about anything, because it's nobody's business. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you're there for a short period of time. You know, get on with it, crack on with it, and sort yourselves out. Another tip that I'd give you while you're going there, if you want to save a little bit of money, is speak to the hostel and tell them that you do not want to pay for the food that they offer you. The food in there is very, very similar to prison food. I think it's actually the same sort of catering firms that supply the food to the hostels as it does to the prisons. Tell them that you want to go self-catering. It will save you money, and you'll be able to then just, you know, go out and buy your own food and sort yourself out that way. Again, like I say, just don't give up, don't give in. You know, don't overreact to anything. You are being watched 24 hours a day, and they definitely will report it back to your probation officer. So yeah, I hope this video has enlightened you a little bit about the APs, the approved premises, stroke hostels. And again, I'd like to give a big thank you to Cody for allowing me to share my experiences on his channel. Okay, thank you very much, and take care of yourselves. Bye bye.